Who is your daddy? I am your father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?
Well, let's jump right in to episode 135 of Fathers of the Grind. We are back. Thank you for hanging with us last week. I went ahead and reposted, and every once in a while I might do that, kind of repost some of my favorite conversations from podcasts gone by. You know, if our schedules, like last week, don't work out to record, then I think it's okay sometimes to pull out a conversation from time past. That was back when Derek and I used to record for over 2 hours easily every week. You remember that. You remember those days.
Now we're too old to do that.
Yeah, now we're both tired. Like, I'm tired already, and I've barely spoken to you for 30 seconds, and I'm already tired.
It's my topless outfit.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It wears you down.
So, Derek, let's hear, what is your total weight loss since you've begun this whole journey?
48 pounds.
48 pounds. Dang. And you're going to be on the cover of Playgirl when?
Hopefully pretty soon. I'm scheduling that right now.
Okay,
no,
good.
I'm still unattractive, but my friend at work says that she's going to sign me up for The Bachelor or something. I said, you got to have like a 6-pack for that. And she's like, no, they get some, kind of chubby guys.
You're like, thanks, but also, ouch. Both. Yeah.
That's just our relationship. I mean, I tell her how fat and unattractive she is every day, so it works out. You
guys are adorable. I don't even know her, but I can already tell you guys are adorable friends.
She is a female version of me. So we literally rip each other to shreds, and then 2 seconds later we're like, oh, you're so good looking. Oh, you're so cute. Yeah, that's our relationship.
That sounds pretty healthy. Hey, by the way, speaking of strange connections and weird relationships, let's talk about our buddy Sasan for a second.
Yeah.
And I want to give a legit shout out to this guy. I know we always joke around about you and Sasan have a very funny back and forth on Facebook and stuff. That aside, your strange give and take love-hate relationship that you have, Sasan is a legitimate cartoon artist, and he is very funny. If you haven't checked it out, go to I Hate Your Face Comics. He's got a Facebook page. I believe they've got a website too. You can't miss it. If you search for it on Facebook, for sure you'll find it. And most of his comics, I think, are absolutely hilarious. And the ones that he's done recently, I just think he's been batting 100. He's just been killing it. And recently, he posted one that has gotten a ton of attention, even being shared by celebrities such as Chris Rock himself on Instagram, which is awesome. So so go check out I Hate Your Face Comics. We can say we knew Sasan before he became the next Bill Watterson or whatever. So
that's what's hilarious is I posted like yesterday or something like Sasan and I are through, like we're breaking up, and he's like, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. I'm a celebrity now. I don't even remember who you are.
The only comment I made on his most recent one when he posted about how, wow, Chris Rock just shared this, my comment was, I'm just glad I got to say that I knew you and you were still Sasan Ben Bahani, and before you changed your name to something more marketable like Stan Bandy or something like that, or whatever he becomes.
A white version of
he's gonna like some marketable white name that people will get behind.
That Stan Bandy's a hilarious
Stan Bandy's hilarious.
I bet you he's a really funny white dude.
Yeah, I bet you he's a good white American man.
No, but the cartoon was hilarious. Most of them are good. I would say all of them are good. There are some of them that I'm like, okay, but he's really funny, really talented.
I mean, I would say even my favorite comic strip writers, even like Far Side with Gary Larson, they're not all my favorites, but I would put, every time I see Sasan post a new one of these, I'm excited to read it because chances are really good that I'm gonna chuckle. And the last few have made me laugh really hard. So he's pretty great.
The only thing I would add is a lot of times, like when you're friends with somebody, you'll say, everybody's fake to a certain extent. They'll be like, oh yeah, that was funny because you're my friend. I don't want to hurt your feelings, or your song didn't suck, or it's pretty good because I don't want to hurt your feelings. But
he's legitimately funny.
Yeah, I don't have to do that with him. Like I don't feel like it's fake at all. Like I'm like, no, this is hilarious. Like I show it to people. Some people are like, I don't get it, but a lot of people do get his jokes. And
he's had a few that have gone maybe not totally viral, but that have really caught attention of people. Sometimes it's got a little political vibe, but usually it's just taking a jab at culture in general or dumb social media stuff, and it's great. It's very, very good. So go check out I Hate Your Face comics, and also know that the author, the comic artist there, and Derek have had an on again, off again, super gay relationship. Just know that's
Even
true.
though we're both really, really, really straight.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Love is love, my friend. Love is love.
I mean, 99% of the time I'm thinking about naked women, but 1% of the time
it's Sasan.
I am thinking about Sasan.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's completely fair. Except I'm a little jealous now. What percentage of that are you thinking about me?
0.
Oh my word!
I didn't know you didn't know how to do math.
Hang on a second. We've got a someone who wants to share something. Oh, hi, this is Skinny Derek now. I used to be Fatter Derek and I liked everybody, but now I'm Skinny Derek and I only like skinny people. So
I only like buff people.
if you don't have muscles, don't talk to me. Yeah,
pretty much.
That's pretty much what it is. All right. Well, let's get into some video game talk. I actually do want to talk a little bit about plagiarism and IGN. I'm interested in getting your thoughts on that, Derek. I'm not sure how closely you followed the story, but I do want to talk about that at the end. But before we get to that, are there any games that you're playing right now? And if you don't have a lot you're playing now, what is stuff that's coming out in the next couple weeks that's caught your eye?
Okay, so I just bought Dead Cells today.
On which platform?
I went ahead and bought it on the Xbox.
Okay.
I was thinking about buying it on PC because it was $5 cheaper on PC, and then you get the true 4K. But it's more comfortable to play on my Xbox, so I went with the I don't know, the comfort.
And did you play it yet?
Yeah, I've played like probably close to 2 hours.
Okay.
I'm not anywhere, but I keep collecting certain things that are making my character a little bit better, or making. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust here. Not very comfortable in my
No, that's good. Listen,
bunker.
People like to hear the. Sounds nice.
I'm not very comfortable in my bunker, but yeah. So I haven't really advanced in it, but I just keep collecting loot. I don't know. I really wanted to shit on this game. Like, everybody was hyping it up, and I hate indies. I hate 2D. I hate Castlevania. I hate all of that stuff. And I kept looking at this game, and I'm like, this one actually looks fun, though. Like, probably because of the speed of it. And it's really, like, gory. And I was like, this just looks fun. So I was like, give it a shot. You haven't bought... Well, I did buy Octopath Traveler, but I haven't been buying a lot of games. So I figure I'll give this one a shot.
Well, I have a feeling, I could be wrong. I have a feeling this fall you're going to get back on the video game buying train in a big way with all this stuff coming out, but I could be wrong.
No, I'm still planning on it. I mean, I've already bought, I've already paid off Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I bought the $100 version. I'm going all in on that one.
Spider-Man, Tomb Raider, Fallout.
I haven't paid for those yet, but I have already bought Fallout on PC. So yeah, I have plans to buy a lot of games. But Dead Cells. Sorry about that. I don't know if y'all got to hear that, but that was my...
This is exactly what happened. You said, but Dead Cells, and then it just went quiet.
Okay, because my son kept calling me.
Oh, got it. Okay.
He just wanted to make sure I didn't eat his chicken tenders. Apparently, skinny dad doesn't register with the kids. They still think of me as fat dad.
Was it Ian or Eli?
It was Ian. Eli's actually at the...
Ian, this is Skinny Dad. I'm not interested in that kind of food anymore. I only eat things that are made out of whole grains and vegetables.
Yeah, so Dead Cells, back to that. It's pretty phenomenal. Like, I don't know. I just really like it. I'm always get sucked into games that are all about loot. There are some things I don't like about it right now, but I'm not going to beat it up for it because I don't fully understand what I'm doing yet.
Right.
Once I fully understand, maybe I won't find them as being negative, so I'm not even going to mention them. Okay. But right now, I just really, really like the combat. I still don't like the way it's, you're 16 bits, but I can get over that because the combat...
And I would argue that it's actually looks much better than that. But anyway,
The character looks like he's 16-bit. Like he's real
but his animations are so detailed.
yeah. It's kind of like Octopath Traveler, where it's old school and new school combined.
Yeah, that's
Not
that's
as
fair.
good as Octopath, of course,
Yeah.
but it's still but it's also not a $60 game. But it's
Hmm.
still got like old school combined with new school. But I actually like how it looks, even though again I don't like the 16-bit parts of it. I like the combat a lot. It's super smooth. I like the fact that you can get upgraded weapons all the time. Upgraded skills, upgrade like you can get grenades, all this stuff like traps. There's just a ton of stuff just from exploring. So it's kind of for me right now, although it's faster, and the difficulty kind of makes me feel like I'm playing a 2D Dark Souls, but with like Diablo 3
Mm,
type loot,
yeah.
or Destiny even type loot, and so that is right now hooking me.
Does it bother you that without some upgrades and things like that, you really don't get to keep a lot of what you collected when you die? Does that bother you at all?
That was one of the things I'm getting upset with, but I'm like, okay, maybe if I find a save point, or I don't know what I'm looking for right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm getting pretty far, and then I die, and I go all the way back to the beginning, and I'm like,
But there's no place to go back and collect what you lost on your dead body because it's all procedurally generated, from what I can tell.
yeah. So
So it's new every
I'm
time.
still a little confused. Yeah, I'm a little confused sometimes, but overall, I'm just. I would say the positive is it's just fun to pick up and play.
Agreed. Yep.
So how long I play it, I don't know. But I can say, even though I was enjoying Octopath Traveler, it was not what I was in the mood for. This seems like this is more my style. Like I'm just gonna pick it up and play, and then
Okay.
I'll play for 30 minutes to an hour, and then I'll be like, all right, go play Rocket League or go watch a video or something.
You been watching any shows recently?
Yeah, a ton actually. I'm in episode 4 of Altered Carbine or
Carbon.
Carbon. Yeah,
Carbon. Yeah.
Carbon.
Yeah.
And
Which I think season 2 is coming out soon, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Are they just like approved it being made, or I don't know
Oh,
what's
okay.
going on?
I know there's been news about it, so there is
Yeah,
going to be a season 2.
yeah, they were telling you who's going to be casted and stuff like that. But I really like that show. I've been watching New Girl. I'm like 20 something episodes in the season 1 of New Girl, so I watch that whenever I want comedy relief. But the show I'm actually hooked on, like I've watched like 20 something of it, and it's a longer show, is Riverdale. And
Are you a
I've never
13-year-old girl? What are you doing?
technically I am a woman, but or
No,
technically I am a
technically you're a
man,
man.
but I am a woman.
We need to teach you
Um,
what words like technically and literally mean.
I know, literally I am a woman.
There was a
Maybe not
guy at work
laterally.
last
I
week.
am.
This guy at work was trying to say something that he learned, and I understand what he was doing. He was trying to talk about how this new concept just completely changed the way he thought about something. So he was trying to say that it blew his mind. And he goes, "This thing, you guys, it literally blew my mind." And we're all like,
No,
"What?"
you can't like blow your mind.
No.
Yeah.
So let's anyway. Technically you're a man, but that's okay. So Riverdale, I've seen you post about this a little bit.
Yeah.
Just give me the elevator pitch for Riverdale.
All right, so it's Archie comics. You remember the Archie
Yeah.
comics?
Yeah.
So it's all about mystery. So it's kind of like watching Scooby Doo, just more melodramatic, less comedy. Um, and yeah, it's definitely written for teens, but my wife and I are enjoying it. My daughter is just starting season 2, so I was actually asking her if she wanted. I'm halfway through season 2. I was like, "Do you want to watch it with me?" She's like, "Not in the mood." Like, God, you're such a pissy little girl. Um, but yeah, I'm enjoying it by myself. Like I'll just watch it by myself. I don't even need anybody to be there. So I really like it. I like the mystery and I like the drama. And not gonna lie, even though they're in high school, I know they're all 20-something years old. There's some hotties on that show.
Whatever you gotta tell yourself to make yourself.
I
not
know
feel-
that. I looked one of them up. She's 24. So
I found her on Facebook. Okay, it's fine.
I totally winked at her. She loved me. So,
All right.
yeah, I've been watching shows, Dead Cells, Rocket League, And that's it. All the other games that I talked about a couple weeks ago, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna start them now.
So Prey is not going to happen. I mean, if we're being realistic, will you play Prey in 2018? Like, legitimately sit down and go through that game, or do you think we're getting close enough to the fall and holiday rush of games that if you give a lot of time to games, you're not going to play
I was
Prey?
gonna say, if I'm gonna do Prey, I'm gonna have to do it now. The problem is I don't have my PS4 hooked up right now, so I need to hook it up. If I hook it up, I will jump back in because I do want to see. Because I'm 10 hours in that game. If I can figure out where I'm going, that's my only problem is I'm lost. If I can figure out where I'm going, then I could probably get back on track and then probably beat the game in 5 to 10 hours.
But you have to want to, right? I mean, you might just not want to do it.
The other thing I want to do is I finished God of War, and it took me forever, but I didn't feel like I got to enjoy the experience like I should have because of everything going in my personal life. So I was excited to find out that August 20th, New Game Plus will be patched in. That is, I'm not saying I'll do it right away, but I have been waiting for it. So there is a legitimate excitement to go back to that game and be like, hey, why don't you play it and see if you enjoy it more now that you're doing good.
Yeah.
Like normal is here. Like we even went for a run today, and I was losing a lot of the weight because I was walking and running a lot. And yeah, exercise is whatever it is. I won't say it's fun. I'm not a nerd, but before I got into all my problems, but I was doing it more once the problems started.
Yeah.
So I actually went out and ran today, and I was like,
don't you love that runner's high, man? That runner's high.
I hate stupid fake people. I will say this right now. I do not run because I'm like, oh gosh, this is so awesome.
It's so addicting, just that feeling of being out in the air and moving your body.
Love the way I'm moving, and then farts shoot out because
just
I'm
get out there and
bouncing
pound the
up and down.
pavement, bro. Just pound the pavement.
No, I'm not one of those people. But as I was running today, I was like, man, I'm not out here talking to myself. Like, I'm not thinking about my problems. I think I'm doing okay. I'm actually just out here to work out and get my calories down and stuff like that. So,
being a man. I gotcha.
Yeah. So, but anyways, what I was gonna say is, if I don't do Prey soon, it's probably not gonna happen, because I am also excited to. I'll probably get The Walking Dead on Tuesday. The
new
first
season,
episode or
yeah, the final season, yeah.
Yep, the final season.
Yep.
So I really enjoyed the first 2 seasons of that.
I never played the third one.
Oh, I did. I forgot. I enjoyed all 3. I forgot there was 3.
Isn't the third one when Clem's a little bit older, right?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't played that one yet.
It's good. I thought it was real good. It had some parts where I was like, okay, you're kind of losing me, but overall, I thought it was really well done. I think
what'll get me to jump back into Telltale, since I haven't played Batman Season 2 yet. I want to. I haven't caught up on Walking Dead. I want to, but I think the Telltale game that's going to pull me back in is probably going to be The Wolf Among Us Season 2. So I just love that game. That'll pull me back in. Plus,
I'm like on halfway through episode 4 of the Batman Season 2, so I really need to finish that too. But I am gonna buy a Walking Dead probably Tuesday, at least episode 1.
Nice.
And then September comes, and that's when I'm gonna get destroyed by games. Like
I know you don't have a Switch anymore, but based on what you know about the new Monster Hunter, or it's not new, but the Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate for Switch, do you think people who like me who loved Monster Hunter World, do you think that's probably worth grabbing? What have you heard about that game? Anything?
Well, I think, isn't that the one that came out on the 3DS? Like, I probably already played a little bit of it.
I don't remember what it came on before, but I really loved Monster Hunter World, and so I understand it will be different, but
yeah, it's not going to be as friendly as World, but I think you get the gist of what Monster Hunter is now. I think it'll be worth a purchase. I don't know if you should buy it day one unless you're desperate for a game.
Grab it on sale or something like that.
Yeah, but I would buy it later when it's on sale. I do have a Switch. I just have to replace one of the Joy-Cons. If I do that, then I actually have a Switch still with me.
Oh, okay. So by the way, speaking of Switch, I'm at the point now where I'm gonna have to just buy another one for the family, like just one for the kids, because I've got my Switch that has all my games that I want to play, but then of course they're getting hooked on everything from Escapist 2 to they love playing Mario Odyssey and Zelda and all this stuff. And I know when Smash Brothers comes out, they're gonna want to play that. They love that on their 3DSs. So I'm gonna have to get Smash Ultimate when that comes out, and I don't want to give up my Switch to them for that. So I'm probably gonna have to get a second one here pretty shortly.
Well, I think with as much as you guys have played it, it's
worth it.
Yeah, $300 isn't a big
And I
deal.
could see myself starting out with grabbing stuff like Overcooked 2, which by the way just came out, and I know they'll love that because they loved the first one. But I've heard this one does a better job at balancing out the frustration in Overcooked 1 ramps up so fast. Like by the third or fourth kitchen, it gets so tough. It's very frustrating. I've heard they've done a better job of balancing out the frustration a bit. But anyway,
not a game I've ever cared about.
Yeah, that's certainly not for everybody, but it was fun. All right, so we haven't talked about this yet, but they released a major update for No Man's Sky, and I just wanted to touch on it briefly.
Okay.
Because I did play, I probably put 10, 12 hours into it since the update, and got into a few things like base building, which is, of course, something that's already there, but they've added on some features to it. I haven't done a ton of the base building, but I have read a lot about it. I tried it a little bit. There's some cool stuff there if building's your thing, and a big component of it now is multiplayer. So if you're base building with friends, I could see it being a lot of fun, whether you're building one together or visiting each other's bases. So there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with that. The part that I do like is the new freighter and fleet system. So you can get a freighter that there's a mission that will trigger as you travel around space. Trigger. That's right. You can get triggered in space. And you can save this freighter from attack from space pirates. Once you do that, you can land in the freighter, go talk to the captain, and he eventually is like, I can't do this anymore. He gives you the freighter and a couple of ships with it. And there you go. You've got this fleet that you now control. What that does for you is it gives you kind of a home base in space where you can now add to it. You can decorate it. You can add additional rooms. You can put some crafting stuff in there. And it gives you a ton more inventory. You don't actually have a ton more slots, but each slot now can hold. I don't know if you remember, but in No Man's Sky stuff stacks, and most of them only stack up to 250 or 500. Well, in the freighter they stack up to like 1,000 or more, so you can just hold a lot more resources there, which is kind of handy. There's still that to me is still one of the biggest gripes in the game. There's two big gripes. Inventory system still clunky. There's not a streamlined way to control your inventory. That is a bother to me. And the combat is still just so-so. They didn't really do a ton to improve that. You can really mod and upgrade your multi-tool to become a really effective weapon. Everything from scopes for long-distance shots to more of a shotgun-type mod to pistol-type mods. But it still doesn't feel amazing. It wasn't designed as a shooter, and they added on all this exploration. It was designed as an exploration game, and they added in the shooting stuff. So still not amazing, but certainly better than before. When it comes to that stuff, I will say the crafting is about as in depth as you could possibly want. All the different recipes you have to get and earn and unlock and purchase, and then gather the materials to make stuff. And it's very, very complex. And so if you're really into crafting and resource gathering, certainly something to consider. Overall, the space stations and worlds do feel more alive. There's a lot more characters there around. There's aliens that are around that are kind of like waving to you, and there's more noise in general happening. The space stations feel more like hubs because there's aliens standing around talking. There's a lot more shops you can go to. There's different types of currency you can use to trade in to buy lots of upgrades. So it feels a little more alive. It feels a lot more like the game that I thought we were going to get 2 years ago. So I want to give credit where credit's due. Hello Games has done a great job at updating this game. It is too bad it didn't launch like this because it still leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. But overall, I would say it is it's a much more fun game to play. And if you like just going and grabbing missions, going to complete those missions on nearby planets and then going and turning them back in for cash and for different resources, they give you a much more robust mission system for little side missions and just gives you more to do along the way. So the game feels much less empty, much less slow paced. There's a lot more to do. I think it's good. I do. I think now it's gone from being a interesting idea and a disappointing game, and now to me it's much more of a interesting idea and a good game, somewhere in the 7 range as opposed to 5. So
That's good.
So if that interests any of you listeners at all, go give it a shot. Derek, I still don't think this is something that
I tried it.
is worth your time.
I re-downloaded it, played it for like 5 minutes. I was like, this is dumb.
Yeah, it's definitely not for everybody, but I like it. I'll probably play it a few more times here and there, but there's a lot of little games that I'm playing that have already pulled me away from No Man's Sky a bit. Iconoclasts, not a game for Derek Teague. Okay, let's not. So Snobby Derek, I don't know if you have anything you want to say, Snobby Derek, about this side-scrolling.
No, I mean, you post about games. Like, that's what irritates me the most. Like, you're like, I'm excited, I bought. Here, guys, look at all my crap. I bought it. I paid real money for this. I work hard. And you're all excited about it. I don't understand. Like, who does that?
Iconoclasts is kind of a Super Nintendo fans game. So this is right up my alley with all the games I used to play back in the day. Very much the visuals and the way it feels and the way it plays reminds me of the old licensed games that you would get with different movies and stuff like that. But it's really high quality. So like the visuals and charm reminds me of like old kind of Disney games and that kind of stuff. Very colorful, very bright, very charming. But of course more detailed. And it has a lot more upgrading you can do compared to old school games. But don't mishear me. It's very simple upgrades. You have like 3 major slots. Then you can go in. There's like 4 different kinds of resources to collect. You build these mods basically, and you have 3 different spots you can add them in. Makes you run a little faster, breathe underwater a little longer, hit harder with your weapons, that kind of thing. Nothing too crazy. Certainly not an RPG. It's a nice side-scrolling action platformer that's got some interesting upgrades to it. It's very fun to play. You've got a stun gun with limited range that has a power-up shot, and then you've got a wrench. So think like almost Ratchet and Clank style, where a lot of the puzzles involve using the wrench. You can also use it to deflect shots coming at you, stuff like that. So it's pretty fun. I do like it a lot. I recommend it. If Super Nintendo side-scrolling platformers was your thing, you've got to get this game. It's a lot of fun. It is not as in-depth or challenging as something like Hollow Knight or Dead Cells or anything like that, or Ori for that matter. But it is still fun. I wouldn't call it super tough. It's pretty easy, but that doesn't mean it's not fun. So there you go. There's Iconoclasts. Oh, one more thing. It does have a surprisingly deep story. They talk a lot about religion and politics, and it's all done in a very funny way, but the lore is very interesting. It's actually interesting because I'm watching a show called The Man in the High Castle. Have you watched that?
No.
Amazing show about what if the Nazis and the Japanese won World War II, and now the Nazis control the eastern half of the U.S., Japanese control the western half, and then right down the middle, around the Colorado Rockies, basically, you've got neutral zone. And then the show is all about a combination of folks, whether they're Nazis, people in the Japanese Empire, or remnants of the American people that are trying to get things done. You know, lots of spies and twists and betrayals and all that. It's very interesting. But that being said, it has a lot to do with oppression, you know, like being controlled by the government. And this game, Iconoclast, has a lot of that going on too. So there you go. Not for Derek, but certainly for other folks that are out there.
Hey, nobody thought I would like Dead Cells, though.
I kind of thought you would. I'm glad you're giving it a shot because I've played it about an hour and a half, maybe, so a little less than you have. But I had the same thoughts. I was like, this seems like one of those games that you can, even though it's side-scrolling and a little pixelated, I think this would be a Derek game. And I'm glad to hear that you're liking it at least a little bit.
Yeah.
I am playing Picross S2. It's a nice puzzle game, but it's just more Picross. So if you like Picross, awesome, go get it. If you don't, it's just a lot more Picross with a few other tweaks here and there. So it's fun if you like puzzle games. I'm going to talk about Dead Cells in a minute, but I also wanted to mention Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight to me is like Ori's long lost brother in terms of the style, the visuals, the music. Doesn't have the same kind of emotional story by any stretch.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even close. I mean, the Ori lore and story that they were telling was really moving. This doesn't have that, but there's a lot of similarities in the way that you start with a very simple skill set, and you just have to fight your way through, and eventually you get some upgrades here. Now you can start jumping off walls. Now you can start dashing and things like that. You start to build up a skill set. It reminds me of a game like Ori. where now you can finally navigate the world in a way that feels better. Because at first you feel really limited, and that's how Ori felt to me at first. But then as the game progressed, you can do a lot more. And so Hollow Knight feels like that to me. It is not an easy game. So playing Iconoclasts is very much straightforward. The secrets are very easy to find. The bosses are easy to beat. Still fun, but easy to beat. Hollow Knight is rough because you can die pretty easily, and you only get one shot to get back to your body to gather all of the orbs that you've collected. And if you don't get them on that first try, they're gone. I mean, I've had multiple times where I've had over 1,000 of these things ready to go trade them in for something, and I couldn't get back to my gravesite quick enough. I died again and lost all of them. So it is a kind of an unforgiving but really fun game. The combat's pretty challenging. This is it's a tough one because they don't give you a ton of guidance. So I could very easily see how someone could start Hollow Knight, get really far, unlock a lot of the map, and then kind of go, do I just have to keep backtracking through all of this massive world to find where to go next? So there can be a lot of frustration with a game like this where you're not sure where to. This is one of the biggest problems with Metroidvania style games in my mind, is now you have to backtrack and hoping that one of your new skills unlocks an area you couldn't get to before. And that can be very time consuming and very frustrating. So I like Hollow Knight a lot. I think it's been maybe a little bit overblown with how amazing it is. It is really, really good, but I much prefer something like Dead Cells so far. Yeah. But anyway, Hollow Knight is good. It's a massive game. If you love Metroidvania, go give it a shot. It's interesting and it's good, but I don't blame someone like, I think our buddy Jesse White actually started it, got pretty far into it, and has kind of fallen off it a bit because now he's just kind of in backtrack mode, and I think he's just kind of feeling a lack of motivation to keep playing. And I think those games,
one of the things they had to fix in Ori when they did like the definitive edition or something.
Yes.
Is you could like warp instead of always having to travel forever back.
Yep, absolutely. And that made that game way more accessible for sure. But the thing with Ori 2 is that I had a lot of motivation to keep playing because I want to find out what happened, and I was very connected with the characters, and I definitely don't have that same feeling with Hollow Knight. So although I do like it, don't get me wrong, it's just not It's not Ori, and it's not as good as Dead Cells in my opinion. So let's talk about Dead Cells for a second. I think this game reminds me a lot more of a as far as the graphics, a lot less like like a Super Nintendo game, and much more like a PS1, maybe even PS2 in its level of detail. But what makes it feel like a current gen game is what Derek talked about, is the smoothness of the movement in the combat. It feels so good. Even that basic rusty blade that you start out with every time you die, even that feels great. And the combos that you can swing through, and the way you can roll to dodge, the way you can block moves if you pick a shield or shoot an arrow. And then, of course, you can find upgrades to increase your brutality, which is your, I believe it really increases your health as well as your melee attack, or your purple weapons, which are special items. Like maybe you can throw down a turret, basically, that will shoot arrows, or a bow and arrow, or throwing knives of your own, or green items, which are other special weapons you can use. So I'm really liking it. I'm liking it a lot. The only frustration I have with it so far is because it is a roguelike and it has procedurally generated areas. When there's been a couple times already and early on in the game where I've collected a few really awesome items. I've upgraded my stats a couple times, I thought, and I collected a couple blueprints, and I'm like, this is great. And then I died. All that stuff disappeared. I think I lost like 12 cells or whatever, used cells to upgrade stuff. And I was like, well, now what? So I looked on the map, and the map had all gone away because it's going to procedurally generate again. So and all my money, everything was gone. And so at first I thought, okay, there's something I have to do to cash that stuff in somehow. I got to figure out what I'm supposed to do. And I've already found out one way to do that is when you get to, there is an area you can get to where you can turn in cells and money for upgrades. Some of the upgrades are temporary when you use money, for example, but when you use cells, you're actually putting those towards permanent upgrades. For example, one of them is, I just unlocked it, where it's some kind of gold purse. And the idea is up to 3,000 gold that you collect. If you die, when you wake up again, you have 3,000 or up to 3,000 that you collected waiting there for you. So I wonder if there's going to be more ways to keep the other loot that you've collected. Because I'm like you, I do get really hooked on games that focus on loot. But if it's going to make me lose it every time I die, I hope there's some sort of gameplay loop that you and I just haven't discovered yet for all that loot.
Yeah.
Not just, now it's gone.
And I'd like to get out of the beginning area.
Yeah, so I've gotten to the second area. I fought one boss. I fought him twice. I don't even think he was a main boss. He was just called this elite monster. He was just elite. I died against him twice. That wasn't very fun. But I don't think I've gotten super far into either. But you're right. The combat feels great. The enemies are really cool. The design of the game is really great. And it's kind of funny. So like at the very beginning, you're just this amorphous blob that takes over this dead body that doesn't have a head, but the blob kind of becomes the head. And every time you die, you come back down this pipe as the blob and you take over the dead body, and then you keep going. So, and as you read different things on the walls or whatever, it's very tongue in cheek at times. So they're not afraid to have a little fun with it, even though the game, like Derek said, is pretty gory. There's a lot of blood as you're taking down enemies. It's really fun. I like it a lot. I'm looking forward to playing that one some more. So I really dig.
I
Dead
take it
Cells.
you got that on the Switch.
I did. I actually thought about getting it on the PS4 because I think for some reason I just thought, okay, I want this game to run really smoothly, but I took a chance on the Switch. That way I could play it in handheld mode. It runs amazingly on the Switch and looks great. I don't think there's a major performance hit because of the way the game has been designed. So I'm glad. And I did pre-order it, so I got it for $20 instead of $25, which is good. So yeah, I got it on the Switch. So overall, I really like it. If you need a quick overview of what it's like, it's kind of like a Rogue Legacy meets Dark Souls in my mind. That's kind of what it is. That roguelike of a game like Rogue Legacy meets kind of the cool combat and satisfying enemy takedowns, things like that, of a game like a Dark Souls or something like that. So I like it. It is side-scrolling, though, so beware.
But it's good.
It is good. Speaking of Dark Souls, I wanted to talk a little bit about this IGN situation and see what you think about it. Think about what you think. Or tell me what you think about this. So, IGN last fall, they hired this guy named Philip Mewson. He was a YouTuber, and he got their job as kind of their NVC host and Nintendo reviewer and writer and kind of new IGN personality, basically. And I'm just going to be really, really honest here. When he first joined in, I thought, oh, he seems like a nice guy. I heard him on like Game Scoop and a few other shows. And then when he took over hosting duties for NVC, in my opinion, that's when his weaknesses and his flaws really started to shine through. He didn't really seem to have much to contribute to any conversation. And I also just don't think he was a great host, but whatever. Everyone's got to learn the job. I try not to be too harsh on that count. But in my mind, he was uncomfortable to listen to. So when there was an episode that featured 3 or 4 other people, I was fine. I could ignore him and enjoy the others. But if he was really heavily featured, I had a hard time listening. I'd never thought he really truly had great ideas on his own. And I just thought he was a mediocre personality to listen to talk about video games, and especially to host a show, in my mind.
Yeah.
Now, I'm kind of an old school fan of the IGN stuff, so I much prefer the Pierre Schneider and Damon Hatfield and those guys, personally. They're, to me, the more mainstays, and they have a steady sense of humor and knowledge about games, and they clearly still like games. So I like those guys a lot more. This guy, to me, felt fake from the beginning. You know, the show would start out with, welcome to NVC Podcast, IGN's Nintendo Podcast. I'm Philip Mewson, and joining me is, and it was just, and that was every time. So he was very fake feeling to me. I thought it was nerves at first, but that was the way the show always was. So all that being said, I didn't know that he did a lot of writing and reviewing. I know he did a little bit, but not a lot. And this summer, he was getting really excited, working up to one of his first video reviews. And I had seen on Twitter, he was talking about, hey guys, I'm very excited. You're going to see my first video review. Just finishing editing it this weekend. Can't wait for you to see it for this game, Dead Cells. And so he posts it and gives it a 9.7. Remains to be seen if Derek and I agree with that score, but it's a great score. And people watched the review and thought it was great. And then all of a sudden, it came to someone's attention. This review looks familiar. And I don't know if it was actually the guy at Boomstick Gaming, but the guy at Boomstick Gaming was somehow made aware of the IGN review. And he created a video that lines up his review with both the visuals that are used and the IGN review that Philip made, and showed it in segments and kept pausing and showed you different segments. Everything from the writing itself to the clips that were being shown, the way things were phrased, all of it was so similar. And towards the end of it, it was word for word in certain sections. It went beyond just, yeah, there's a shared vocabulary, in my opinion. It wasn't just Metroidvania and Dark Souls like and roguelike. It was more than that. It was very specific ways of phrasing stuff that you would never do on your own that many times in a row, the identical way someone else did. So it became very clear that this was heavily borrowed from.
Yeah.
So did you see when that news first came out, and did you happen to watch Boomstick's video on this?
I watched a little bit of the Boomstick video just to see if he was being ridiculous or if it was.
And what was your initial
plagiarism.
take on what you saw of that video?
Oh, he was definitely plagiarized. I mean, there's no doubt that he. I'm sure he shared the same opinion as this guy. Like, he probably really did like the game. He probably really did play it. But I don't know if he got so caught up on editing that he took a shortcut on how to form his own opinion, like write it out. And so he's like, well, I'll just use this guy's opinion and I'll edit it to fit that.
Yeah.
So he has structure. Because, I mean, like, as somebody who's written sermons before, I don't take other people's sermons. Doesn't mean I've never said something from somebody else's sermon, because, of course, a lot of what I've learned is from other people. But you do have, like, a structure that
Right.
you follow. Like, most pastors will start off with, like, let me throw out a joke, get everybody to laugh. Then I'll read a scripture, and then I'll explain, and blah, blah, blah. And you have, like, these, and then you have your 3 points and all that. So you'll have, like, a structure that you try to follow. And that's probably what he was trying to do, but I think he took a shortcut and just was like, well, my opinion's the same as this guy, and nobody's going to know, and I'll just do it. Do I think it's ridiculous? Yeah, I think it's so stupid, and it shows how immature and dumb this guy is. It also it reflects poor, and I'm not an overly harsh person. Let me just say that. I'm very forgiving and understanding, but it really reflects poorly on IGN.
Yes, it does.
I'm not a fan of IGN at all, and they were for a while my favorite gaming site. I would go there all the time because I did like the personalities. But here's the funny thing is, the personalities I liked were the genuine people. Like,
Exactly.
Damon is Damon.
Yep.
Like,
I
stop.
still love that guy.
Yeah. Stop hiring all these tryhards just for equality purposes, and because they can get loud and articulate things. And that's what they're doing. They're hiring personalities, but these personalities aren't genuine gamers. Like,
Right.
they're just there to.
And even if they are, their opinions still don't sound like a real opinion from them.
No.
Like when I
They're-
listened
they're
to
there
when I listen to
to-
folks like Max Scoville and Alana Pierce, not to bash them, they have a skill set and they have a lot of fans. I personally found them to be tough to listen to because it sounded to me like, well, number one, Max is always trying to be funny, but both he and Alana they seemed to be saying the same things that everyone else was saying. It didn't seem to come from a place of how deeply they loved and cared about video games and were just having fun. It felt like they were trying to be a personality, like you said. And we joke about tryhards. Of course, you go back to our Crank Flark hashtag tryhard conversations. I am 100% with you. So many and it's not just IGN, so many gaming outlets hire folks who I think are just trying so hard to be like the rest of the gaming personalities out there. And it gets exhausting. It really does.
And I think some of it's for them to get big on those sites, but I think a lot of them, they're trying to follow the same footsteps as like a Greg Miller and stuff like that. Like, come in, get hired, get big, get popular, and then own your own business. So they have selfish intentions from the very beginning. And I'm not saying when you take a job, you shouldn't be concerned about you and what you're going to do. Sure, you should, but they're hiring people that don't even care, truly care about the position, don't really care about being themselves, don't really care about, for some of them, probably don't even really care about video games. It's all about, and this is what happens when an industry gets big. I said this 5 years ago that I was going to probably end up getting out of gaming because it was going to get so big and I was going to get fed up with all the fake people that are just entering into it to make money off of it. And I wasn't just talking about the publishers. I was talking about every aspect of gaming, and I think that's the problem with IGN. They need to go back to getting people that, hey, do you really love video games? You do? Okay, we can work on the other stuff. Like you're
Mhm.
terrible in front of camera. We can work on that. But instead, what they're doing is going, who's really popular on YouTube?
Yeah.
Oh, this guy is?
Yeah.
Oh, he's really good in front of a camera.
Yep. I think
So we're gonna
they've been
hire him.
guilty of that with a number of different hires. I think Naomi Kyle was one of those. Let's hire a pretty face who can talk about video games, and then she's even spun off to do her own video game channel. But I have no interest because I just don't think she's got an interesting take on video games. You know,
She doesn't have an opinion on them.
yeah, it's just trying to be entertaining, and that's fine if that's what works for you, but it's not my thing. And so, do you think that tendency of IGN's led them to hire someone like Philip without doing their due diligence? And because apparently, the reason I asked that, Jason Schreier from Kotaku, say what you want about Kotaku, Jason Schreier is a pretty good reporter. He pretty quickly during all this dug up the fact that this is not Philip's first time being accused, and there's pretty good evidence of him plagiarizing someone else's work in written form even. So it's not the first time he's done it. And I do wonder, do you think that tendency of video game companies to become so personality driven and drive up the YouTube subscribers that they're less concerned with the genuine journalism and passion for the industry? Is that part of the problem?
So. I think so. I think they're focused on, they're getting to the point where it's all numbers driven, that they're looking past the other parts that matter, the integrity, the authenticity. I mean, that for me, authenticity is huge. In fact, I was saying that to my wife. I was like, it's so funny how I was always about being authentic, and with everything I'm going through, I've lost that. And I was like, that's something I have to get back. I have to be authentic again and not be this fake person that's not who he really is. And so that's my biggest issue with I don't really know this guy. That's why I'm not really talking about him in particular. I never listened to him on NBC because again, I had abandoned IGN before that. But I just noticed as I was invested in IGN, I really liked Alana because I thought she was cute, and I'm like, oh, she likes games. But then the more and more I listened to her, I was like, oh God, she's just so stupid. She's just one of those idiots who's just here to be famous. It's like,
Well, and the biggest problem with Alana, and I think Philip is kind of the same way, is when you start to notice the inconsistencies of what they're saying, you start to go, oh, they just want to be heard. They don't truly have strong opinions with meaningful thought behind it. They just want to chime in on every conversation. I started to notice with Alana, and I think Max Scoville's the same way. I think a lot of the IGN folks, the newer ones at least, are like this, where their opinions are so inconsistent, you start to realize, I don't know that they've got a really strong take on this that's interesting and there's some depth to it. I think they just want to chime in on every conversation. They just want time on the microphone and in front of the camera. And so maybe that's a harsh judgment. Maybe that's not fair completely, but that's the vibe that I get, for better or worse. And I think Philip was one of those. But the problem I always had with Philip was that
a lot of people.
The problem that I had with Philip is that everything I listened to about him, and I even followed him on Twitter a little bit, even watching the stuff that he posted, I felt like he was always desperate to do it right or to do well or something. So I do wonder if, like you said, the pressure of the job got to the point where he took an easy way out, which was, I'm going to take this very low subscribed YouTube channel. No one's going to know. I'm going to tweak and paraphrase what they did and use it as my own. And of course, in this day and age, you can't do that with anything anymore. There's always someone who's going to, especially in a platform that's as big as IGN, you just can't get away with it. It's not going to happen. So what happened was this Boomstick Gaming put this out saying, what should I do, you guys? It seems like they used my review. IGN caught word of it, kind of started to pick up some momentum in social media and on Reddit. They caught wind of it and they took down the review and said, we're reviewing this based on this claim. And then next thing you know, the official statement was that I think it was the next day that they have fired the writer. They didn't name him, but we know it was Philip Mewson. They fired him and they take it very seriously, and they personally apologized to Boomstick Gaming. I forget what his Twitter handle is. And they said, we want your trust and this is not okay. And so I think they did the right thing to say, when it comes to journalism, plagiarism is one of the biggest no-nos. Of course, one of the other ones being just flat out lying, as we've heard with journalists even in the news industry, like Brian Williams, pretending like they're somewhere that they weren't. But plagiarism is one of the biggest no-nos, and let me ask you this: do you think someone like Philip Mewson, who was fired for plagiarism, proven plagiarism, do you think someone like that will or should work in the games journalism industry again?
No, he'll have to do it on his own. He'll have to go back to YouTubing on his own. He's not going to get a job anywhere. Not doing that. I wouldn't even
listen to someone who was fired for plagiarism? Would you be like, yeah, but that was them then. They've learned the lesson. I'll listen to them now. Or
I mean, if it was years later, sure. But like right now, no. I'd be like, you obviously you don't have your own opinions. So I have no interest.
Even taking the emotion out of it, just very practically speaking, like you don't have much to say, so I'm not listening to you.
Exactly.
I got you. So yeah, IGN went ahead and made that cut. Who knows who they'll be hiring next? Maybe it's you and me. Maybe we are the ones they've been looking for.
And I'm just that'd be great. No, not really. I would not fit in at all. I'd be fired like the first day. Derek hit on every girl.
I would actually love a documentary that would follow you on your first day living in downtown San Francisco. I think that would be amazing. I
would be put in jail.
Probably.
Right away. But yeah, I think IGN needs to fix their crap, man. Like this is a lot of negative crap. And the funny thing is the consistent, I know we're in a small group and we don't represent majority, but any other group I've gone into when IGN's being spoke of, everybody says they love Damon. I don't understand why people cannot figure out why they love Damon. Because he's just Damon.
He's a real person, right?
Yeah, and he's not like overly fake. Like sometimes he gets excited, but for the most part, he's kind of mellow. And he's just kind of like, yeah, let's control the conversation. Let's let him. He's just really got good timing, and he actually seems like he really listens when people are talking.
He's a great host. He's got his finger on the pulse of the industry. He cares.
Yeah. Yes, and it's not this fake, I just want to get really big so I can abandon ship. He seems authentic. I think he's one of them that could leave IGN if he wanted to and start his own thing and be successful. Absolutely. But he's not done it yet.
I don't think he will, though. I think so. He's more closer to our age bracket. I think he's mid-30s, maybe upper 30s at this point. I feel like some of those guys who are mainstays there, there's not really a good reason for them to leave. Of course, if stuff like this keeps going down, that's a good reason to jump ship, right? If IGN can't button things back up. But they've had some issues. IGN had an employee let go for being accused of some different types of harassment and whatever else, some sexual innuendo stuff. And they've also had some employees that were just kind of quietly let go, or that quietly left, like Marty Sleva, a very long time IGNer who a lot of people liked. I never really minded him. I, for the most part, liked Marty. Sometimes he was annoying, but I liked him okay.
He's so annoying.
But I'll tell you what, something weird happened there. And so there's stuff going on with IGN that, as a fan of them for years and years, I hope they're able to button it up and get it back together. I still do go to them from time to time, but they are no longer my go-to. And that might be another conversation. Who's your go-to gaming source?
I will say this real quick so we can end the show. This happened to GameSpot. GameSpot had like 5 or 6, maybe even more personalities, and this was probably 7 or 8 years ago, and they were all under like Kevin Van Ord, and it was all PC BS, and they got to the point where they were even mocked. They had a show on GameSpot that was mocking their fans. Like they would take comments. Now it was funny, but they were making fun of them, but they would always pick on the ones that they seemed didn't fit their narrative of politics and their views and stuff like that. That got old, and they ended up GameSpot. I don't know if they did it intentionally, but nobody's left. They all got cleaned out. They're all gone. There's nobody from that staff. They're all gone. And I think it was because that silent majority who doesn't speak out, but just goes, you know what? I'm sick of this. Hey! And they leave. I was one of them. I was like, I loved GameSpot. I was like, I'm done with you guys. You're so annoying. I didn't go on every comment section and be like, I hate Kevin Van Ord because he's gay. I didn't do any of that stuff. I didn't like them, but I
Yeah.
was like, I just left. And
Yeah.
I think a ton of people left. And once they cleaned house and they started getting a little bit more professional, started leaving their politics out, started leaving their personalities out, they got better.
And
They
that's really all
still
I want from a
have
gaming
that, but
outlet too. That's actually a topic we should cover. Who do you trust and what makes a good gaming outlet? But my initial take on it is I just want a gaming outlet that will cover the most recent news with a lot of accuracy, and the people who write for them just really enjoy video games and they have a lot of fun. Now, I want them to give fair reviews if it sucks, but I want
yeah.
them to use a lot of humor, accurately cover the news, and just really enjoy what they do. If they're there
Keep
because
your politics and your agenda.
yeah, if they've got some kind of cultural or political agenda, I'm not interested. You're allowed to have those opinions, and
Mhm.
maybe there's a forum somewhere in there to voice it. But why does a review about a video game have to somehow include, diversity or something like that? I'm sorry, like I'm not interested in hearing your take on that kind of stuff
Yeah.
in a video game realm. That's just me personally. We can actually talk about that in a future episode, our favorite gaming outlets and what makes them good.
Yep.
But we're gonna wrap this one up. Thank you guys for listening.
Buy
Derek,
Dead Cells.
hopefully you can buy a shirt at some point between now and next time we do another video
No,
episode.
not if I'm buying Dead Cells on every platform.
That's
I
true.
don't
If
have
you're gonna
money
be
for it.
owning Dead Cells everywhere, you're not gonna have any money for shirts. That's true.
No.
Good point.
Here.
And we are recording this a little earlier in the week. I would have had thoughts on Okami HD for all of you, but I'll save that for next week. Please be excited.
No, that's a boring trash game.
Don't worry. Listen, Spider-Man and Tomb Raider, they're all coming soon enough. All right. But for right now, this is what you get. This is it. This is what happens in the summertime.
Yeah, that is.
All right. You guys have a great week. Thanks for listening. See ya.
All right. See you.
Who is your daddy? I am the father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?
There was something to do with the three-way connection. You know what I'm talking about with three-ways, but it just didn't work well. When you don't do a three-way the right way, no one's happy.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. We both don't know what we're talking about. Let's be honest.
I really don't know what you're talking about.
We have no idea.